Cool, awesome. We'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for joining today. We're going to go through a lecture and discuss usability at a high level, and we'll have a short kind of introduction to usability. Not go too in depth from a UX perspective, but just get some foundational context for how to approach considering UX and products, usability in products in particular. We'll have a short kind of 15-minute breakout session, and then we'll wrap up by discussing specific concrete ways of including or being inclusive of usability concepts within your products. So first, what is usability? And I first want to start by showcasing some examples here. And first and foremost is this infamous usability example of push-pull doors. And push-pull doors are something that, in theory, seem like a really strong concept from a design perspective and even from like a user problem perspective. But there are a few examples of push-pull doors being not very useful and the usability not being very high. And a clear example of this is this example down here where it's not clear just with the knob being on the outside whether or not this is a push-pull door. Sometimes you'll see a doorknob on the outside of a door and you still need to push down and push it in. Whereas there's very clear indicators of whether or not a door is designed for a user to push it or pull it. And some of those examples are just having a handle on the outside with clear labeling, but also even without clear text labeling, there's some indicators of communicating that a door is designed to be pushed. And similarly, some of those are these, which just the being devoid of a knob. So there's nothing for you to pull on. And so that suggests that you need to push this. Just wanted to give a clear example of what we're talking about. We're talking about usability, even if it's just a kind of obscure offline example. Similar, we see these types of dynamics play out on a lot of the gadgets that we use. We'll go into some other examples a little bit later around remotes. Here's another example around washing machines, around how these things can be quite confusing if we're not necessarily using clear indicators to direct the user's attention and trying to direct their attention specifically towards what they need to do next to fulfill the job that they want to fulfill. So in the Slack thread that I created, I love for everyone to just drop in the last time that you were frustrated when using your product. So to like kind of name the product that you were using or service that you were using and communicate why it was frustrating.
Can people unmute themselves?
Oh, no, sorry, in the Slack thread.
My bad.
Yes, stop talking.
That's great, Chris. Yes, yes. Yes, the new YouTube comments on mobile, that's a great example. Government websites, perfect. Oh, wow, cool. Postmates, that's a good example. Awesome. So one thing to note is that usability is about creating experiences that are more than just focus on ease of use and making them convenient to use. Specifically, usability is the extent to which a product can be used by specific users to achieve specified goals with effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction in specified context of use. And so this is rather wordy and using a lot of alliteration that makes it even more confusing. But all this boils down to is that usability is about creating an experience that solves a specific goal with a specific user in mind, and then it takes into account how effective that experience is to achieve that goal, how efficient that experience is to achieve that goal, and how happy that user is after they have completed that goal by going through your experience. And so drilling in a little bit more, here are 5 different categories of what usability entails. So the first is learnability. So learnability speaks to how easy it is for users to accomplish basic tasks the first time that they encounter the design. Next is efficiency. And efficiency speaks to once users have learned the design, how quickly can they perform tasks? And so if we really want to zoom in a little bit more, learnability speaks to how quickly can the experience educate a user how to perform a specific action within the design the first time that they encounter that desired action. The second is, okay, how quickly can, after you've educated them and they're able to perform that action the first time, how quickly can they, or once they've learned the design, how quickly can they continue to perform that task? Memorability. And so this speaks to when a user returns to the design after a said period of time of not using it, how easily can they reestablish proficiency, excuse me. And so again, this speaks to how efficient we can be as product developers of educating users how to perform specific actions in a product. Next is errors. And so errors, as you might expect, speak to how many errors do users make, how severe are these errors, and how easily can they recover from these errors. And lastly, satisfaction. So how pleasant is it to use the design? I'm using design kind of loosely here, but just speaking to how pleasant is it to the user to use the product. So we have a short breakout, but before we get there, I want to open it up for questions in the Slack thread. Are there any questions about any of these different types of categories of usability before we create breakout rooms and go through a brief exercise? Cool. So for the next 15 minutes, we'll break out into groups. And so I'll leave this up, actually post a screenshot in the thread. But I would like each team to pick one of these products. So BuzzFeed, Craigslist, Instagram, or Twitter. I'd like you to evaluate the product using the 5 principles that I mentioned. So learnability, efficiency, memorability, errors, and satisfaction. And I can make sure to share a screenshot of those as well, just so you have, yeah, I'll make sure to do that, Kai. What aspects of the product are a good user experience? What aspects of the product could the usability be improved? And then lastly, when we reconvene, just nominate a team member to post a summary of your discussion in Slack. So
If you make me the actual host, I can manage the breakout rooms, but otherwise you're gonna have to create the breakout rooms.
all right, one second.
Okay.
Okay, you should be host, Frank.
There we go.
Cool. Did everyone get an invite?
Hey, Aaron, nobody showed up to your room, or what happened? I'm gonna put you.
No one showed up to the room.
Okay, I'm gonna put you in breakout room 2. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No, actually. Hey, Aaron, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, just click on the alley showed up. So go ahead and click on your breakout room button on the bottom of the Zoom bar.
Okay.
And it looks like they're heading over there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Just about everybody else is looking good. Okay, hey, Dan.
Yep.
Actually, I'm just gonna talk to you about this after.
Okay. Did you set a timer? I know you can do that for breakouts, or should I manage time on my end?
No, I didn't, but I can. How much time did you want to give it?
15.
Okay.
Hey, Simon, did you get an invite for a breakout room?
I did not.
Okay, one second.
Okay. Go ahead and get you. Oh, perfect. I'm gonna put you in breakout room 2.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jake, I'm gonna put you in breakout room. Just kidding.
Haha.
Hey, Shia Masri. I hope I didn't butcher your name. Are you having trouble with your breakout room?
Yeah, it was. I was put into some room and there was no one there.
Oh no. Which breakout room were you in? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember exactly.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get you in breakout room 2, okay?
Okay.
All right. I think I am. Let's see. Okay, cool. You should be good. Yeah, there's a breakout rooms button on the bottom of the Zoom bar. Go ahead and click that guy.
Okay.
Thank you.
So where?
It's like you know, the Zoom bar where it says mute and stop video and all the other options. There should be a little button there that says breakout rooms. If you click on that, it should take you to the correct breakout room.
Okay. Yeah. I see that.
Got it. Rock and roll.
Walk through a specific case study. But I'm not gonna ask you to really post your thoughts in Slack. And I do want to highlight though, if your product is difficult to use, then no one is going to use it, which this seems really obvious, but you'd be surprised how in the weeds product teams can get about building out feature sets, executing against a roadmap, and not necessarily being very thoughtful about how easy their products are to use and making sure they're getting consistent feedback from current users, potential users, and having a very structured process for collecting that feedback so that they can have some sort of degree of confidence when they do, release different features for larger subsets of customers. And so a very famous example of this is Snapchat. And so in 2018, Snapchat released a feature that was a complete failure by a lot of metrics, specifically user sentiment, user engagement plummeted, and ultimately so did their market cap and their stock price. But here's a headline and a very extreme example for sure. But here's a headline around users absolutely hated Snapchat, and Snapchat ended up rolling back their product changes, which kind of multiplies the degree of really the pain kind of here for Snapchat, or more concretely, just multiplies the losses here. And so first, they are exhibiting a large loss on the trust of their patients, or not their patients, excuse me, the trust of their users. In that they rolled out this new change, and it was very confusing to use. That doesn't necessarily instill trust in encouraging Snapchat users to continue to use the product at high rates. Additionally, there's a clear tangible cost to rolling back the changes back to earlier iterations. All that input, all that time for all of the Snapchat team members and employees that worked on these projects or on this particular release were losses because it ended up rolling these feature designs back to what existed currently and started from scratch. And so this is, again, an extreme example, but one in which it highlights how drastic not having, not keeping these usability concerns in mind can really have adverse effects on the product experience and thus the business. And here's an example of specifically what happened after that release. So all of that work that was done over the previous 2 years at Snapchat was undone through this failed launch. And it's taken them till I'd have to double check, but roughly, I think their stocks started to rebound back up to this point in 2018, around Q3 or Q4 of last year. And so it took another year to get back up to this point as well. And here's another example of another kind of physical product that that Apple has designed that has a company being famous for keeping usability top of mind. And typically when you see remote controls, they are riddled with buttons that lead to dozens of different types of settings that never really get used. And all these other different buttons that are unnecessary for the core user experience. And so Apple's approach is to strip all that away and literally just make sure they're only using functionality that is easy to use, allows people to learn how to navigate their systems very quickly and retain those learnings to come back and understand how to use this particular physical device, the remote, but also their systems, Apple OS and Apple TV. So next going to transition into discussing tangibly how we go about achieving good usability. And so first and foremost, again, going back to the definition of usability in that we're speaking to create specific desired experiences and outcomes and allowing specific users to achieve specific goals. And so how we achieve good usability starts by talking to our users and collecting feedback from our users. In addition to that, we want to, when we do speak to our users, whether it's verbally or through user interviews, or we're collecting insights from them through quantitative surveys or just product analytics, we want to make sure that we are looking at their feedback in relation to our assumptions about what we expect their behavior to be, or what we would expect what we would like their behavior to be as well. And the earlier that we can include this type of feedback and connect with our users, is much better and increases the probability that we'll create something that is more aligned with their experience than not. The reason we want to make sure that we are including our users in along this entire journey is because often, almost definitely, our first solution that we create is not going to be the best solution. And so typically we need to have a conversation through launching product, future iterations, and seeing what the response is from our customers and our users, and then iterating on that and seeing if we can become more and more aligned as time progresses. Which speaks to making sure that we are, again, consistently getting feedback from our users and that we're iterating based off of that feedback that they're giving us about their experience. And so here are some user testing guidelines. And so the first is to write a list of objectives. And so first of all, taking a step back, stepping into explaining just like some considerations to take into account when you are actually executing on conducting user research and user testing. And so again, this is just a mechanism to collect not just objective feedback, but feedback about specific actions or experiences that you want to create. And so you can do this, you can go through this process as many times as you want. Often, I'd recommend this not just around launch of every single iteration, but also kind of on the front end, going through some sort of research process, some sort of user testing process when you're need to understand which directions you want to take a particular product, which pain points are the most painful for your users, or if you have questions around trade-offs that need to be taken into account, how enjoyable one experience will be versus another for your users. So the first step in the user testing guidelines is to write a list of objectives. And this speaks to just making sure that there is a clear understanding of what you want the output to be from the user testing. And so this is not necessarily your assumptions here, but your objectives of specifically the information that you want to obtain through going through a research process. Next, when you're actually engaging with your users, you're going to want to ask for permission to record the interview, which I spoke about in the ethics lecture as well. Most importantly, this is one of the most important points, you're not going to want to coach your user. You're going to want to observe them go through a particular experience and try to understand their thought process as they are going through the experience. So one way to do this is the next point, which is to ask your users to think out loud. And what this gets to is trying to get some qualitative, trying to get a qualitative output from the quantitative input. And so, meaning you have a user that gets to actually go through your flow, right? And you get to see what they're clicking on, or like where their cursor is actually hovering, and all these things. And you can track all of these events, you know, using various different types of product analytics tools, but they don't necessarily give you insight into what your user is thinking as they are reading your copy, as they are, you know, hovering over you know, different elements up on the screen, as they are scrolling to different pages, why they may bounce, why they may click on something that's not a desired action. And so when you're going through these user testing, these interviews, asking your users to think out loud is one way to understand their thought process and try to understand their sentiment when they are going through your experiences, which will increase the probability that you'll be aligned in creating an experience that meets their expectation. And lastly, you're going to want to try to encourage your users to talk as much as possible while you listen as much as possible. And what's really important here is that you allow the user to really just, talk through all of their thoughts as you're going through your experience, and not necessarily respond to your questions, or not try to lead them in any specific way. So I thought we'd do a little mock user testing session. Someone wants to volunteer, someone that hasn't used Yelp all that much. Just raise your hand in the thread in Slack. Anyone? Have you all used Yelp a ton? Which is probably the case. Awesome, thank you so much. All right. Is it Laura Lee? You can come off mute.
Yeah, it's Laura Lee.
Okay, cool. Can you share your screen? Do you have those permissions in the bottom of your Zoom toolbar?
I don't even have Yelp up. Hold on. Yes, should take 2 seconds. I just hate Yelp in general.
Yeah,
Okay.
I actually agree.
You cannot start a screen share, so it's the.
You should be able to do it now.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, you should be able to know. Okay, awesome. Okay. So this is a mock user testing interview. Laura Lee, thanks so much for taking the time today. The session is going to be recorded. If that's okay with you, we're going to be sharing this this recording with our product and design team. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So first, I would love if you could show me how you would find one of the best taco shops in LA.
Right. Mm. I don't even know how to write Los Angeles. Ah, there we go.
Cool. Awesome.
Fairly easy.
And so what are you thinking now when you arrive at this search results screen to help you find one of the best taco shops in LA?
Honestly, bad opinion here, but I'm used to the mobile, and that's usually why I hate Yelp. So seeing this on a desktop for the first time, I actually like it a lot more. Just because you have these filtering options here on the side. And then all, as usual, you know, pictures and star ratings and all that. So I feel like this is actually a lot cleaner than I thought it would be.
Cool. And so next, I would love to learn if you could show me how you would go about writing a review.
It's a great question. Let's see.
And if you could talk through what you're thinking as you're going through the experience, that'd be helpful.
I figured just kind of knowing, okay, I've been to King Taco, so I would think that that would be on their specific page, and then clicking on the write review button to leave a review of my own. And then, so star ratings 1 through 5, just kind of how I felt about it. I'm just gonna give it a 5-star because I've never been here, so I don't know. Let's see, and then just writing out a description.
It might make you log in or sign up. That's fine. You don't have to do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
cool,
it's
thanks.
a lot more simple than the app is, for sure.
You can go back to the King Taco page. And let's say you wanted to send this review, well, send a review to a friend. How would you do so?
Send a review specifically, or send this company's page?
A review.
Probably go down to reviews if they have that available. So yeah, and then share the review to the specific person here. Is that right?
Cool, awesome.
Nice.
And last question, how would you find a painter for your house in LA if you lived in LA?
Like on here?
Yes, on Yelp.
Oh, home services. I didn't even know that was a thing. Home services and a painter. So I don't know if that would be landscaping or contractors.
That's good feedback.
Sorry.
I was just saying that's good feedback.
And then we have an error.
Oh, wow. This is perfect. Classic Yelp.
Let's see if another one of these works. Okay, so it's probably not going to come up in landscapers, I would assume, because that's outdoor stuff. Yeah. Is there a way to search this? No, you can only search food. So I look like I'm a little bit stuck because I would assume it would be under contractors.
I want to double click into something you just said. So when you were hovering over the search input form, the field, you mentioned this is only for food. Are you saying that because there's the pre-populated food-related items?
Yeah, how it says like tacos, cheap dinner, stuff like that, I would assume. Oh, so you can actually click in there. Okay, so. And you said in the LA area, I wouldn't even think
Yes.
that you could look something up like this. Okay. Okay, so you can.
Cool, awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it. So, yes, that was just a short mock example of how to guide user testing experience. And you know, this isn't, you know, one-to-one user testing experience. And so I was interjecting and, you know, not necessarily giving as much time as I ordinarily would have, but I hope you get the gist of the approach there. But in summary, some of the testing guidelines when you're speaking to users and setting up user interviews are to, again, start by writing down a list of your objectives. And this should be objectives that you want to learn from the interaction with your users about their experience. Next, make sure that you are asking permission to record their sessions. Try to align with not coaching the users and making sure that you're just observing their actions and trying to get them to talk as much about what they're thinking as they are going through the experience. And lastly, again, try to get them to talk as much as possible so that you have as much information to synthesize their experience from, right? And so the more that they are engaging with you and telling you about, you know, if they're feeling frustrated or what they're feeling, just their thoughts about the experience overall or what they would expect. Those are really amazing nuggets that you can incorporate into future product iterations. Cool, and with that, if there are any questions, feel free to drop them in the thread and then I'll go through and answer them. Oh, yes, yeah. Well, we're at the end, but next time I'll focus on speaking louder.
That was a really good user interview. Just a side note.
Thanks, Frank.
No, I mean, like, that's something that you would really be striving for.
Yeah, no, I agree. Cool, awesome. Well, if any questions do pop up later, feel free to reach out and we'll make sure to post this recording shortly. Thanks, y'all.